the number one reason businesses struggle is you don't know how to compete.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Meller, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high-performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in speaker and consultant Ken Schmidt, whose influential role in the story and growth of Harley-Davidson taught him that in order for us to grow to a level where we can compete, it starts by understanding how we want to be known. And welcome back into a new installment of Growth Ready. So excited to be welcoming in Ken Schmidt today. And Ken, before we start getting into your journey and all the insights that you're going to be providing to us, tell our listeners what it means to you to be growth ready.
Growth ready to me, I can define by saying I view my world through a lens of competition, and I don't mean that in hand to hand. I view it as the greatest markers of improvement are moving forward, are setting yourself up to win. Whatever that is. And if you don't look at the world competitively, other people are, and they're the ones that are going to pass you by. So
I love that little caveat, man. That's important. So you answered that very individually to begin with, and then you threw that nice little caveat in at the end, just like, because if you're not doing that, chances are there's a whole bunch of other folks that are doing it, and they're more
than happy to do that for you.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Well, man, I'm really excited just for our listeners to learn more about your story. And I think the best place to start with someone like yourself, because I know we've got plenty to cover, is really just the typical sort of world that you're operating in now. So just catch everybody up. Like, who are we speaking to in terms of how you show up in the world today and all the things that you provide in terms of value to folks as well?
Okay, well, sure. I made my bones as a very, very fortunate human being. I got to be part of the turnaround team at Harley-Davidson going back mid-'80s through late 90s, kind of formative years of taking a very, very famous but failing business and turning it into a global juggernaut. And in the years since then, I've been a consultant working with other businesses to improve their competitiveness, showing them how to tap into some really simple drivers of human behavior to build their businesses and to build their personal competitiveness. I've been a speaker. I speak all around the world. Love doing that. And, I'm not naive. If it wasn't for the Harley-Davidson on my shirt and in my life and in my past, I mean, that's kind of my calling card. That's
Sure.
the attracted.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. So, a lot of times people don't remember my name and say, oh, that Harley guy. And I will accept that. I take that.
Yeah,
it's good for business.
It's worse things to be associated with in this world, man. I mean, honestly, and again, I think it immediately speaks to your story, which, again, when you're operating in the world that you're in today, specifically with the speaking, why would you, push it away? Why wouldn't you embrace it? Why wouldn't you make it part of who you are? But this word competitiveness, you've said it now probably 5 or 6 times already. I love it. I'm here for it. And so with that, I would love just to get an idea of what was it about either your upbringing or some of those early years professionally where you noticed, okay, where a lot of people, when it comes to competitiveness, they can get a little bit anxious. They can maybe shy away. And clearly, just from the short time we've been speaking already, that's not you. So what is it about competitiveness that has always allowed you to maybe lean into it a lot more?
That's an interesting question, because a lot of people, when I mention competitiveness or, that I see myself as competitive, they think, well, he's the type of person that if he's, playing poker or whatever, has to win. And that's not really the way I look at it. It's not like the compelling driver of my outward personality, but I learned young that if you don't stick your neck out, if you don't speak up for yourself, if you don't position yourself to win, to get selected, to get the raise, to get the promotion, to get the job, well, somebody else is. So I'm going to always be that somebody else, that's keep holding somebody else back, because I'm going to get in front of you and I'm going to make sure that that happens. And what's so awesome about that is that what I have learned from a business standpoint regarding competition and how to become dominant has direct parallels to what we do as individuals that make us competitive or not competitive. And most people, you talk about businesses competing, they, oh yeah, I get why that's important. But a lot of people don't think of it, in their personal and professional lives, that, you're competing every day, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, whether you know it or not. And I appreciate you framing that for us just from your own experience, because it's one of those words where it's such an easy trap for us all to fall into when you say the word competitive. It's like, okay, so it's clearly me versus you, or us against them, or whatever it might be. And what you're saying is that the life that we're living, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is how I'm hearing it, the life that we're living, we're all on this path. We're all living this life, and we get to choose in many, many ways whether we want to, in your words, stick our necks out and make things happen for ourselves, or allow the person next to us to do the same. We kind of have that ability to all look forwards and all do as the other person next to us, but you're saying that we have that option to choose to lean into those opportunities as opposed to allow others to maybe take them on our behalf.
And most people, Steve, that I talk with or work with, think that competing is as natural as breathing, and that they do it without thinking about it. And I say, I don't believe that for a second. And if I'm talking to business people, I say that the number one reason businesses struggle is you don't know how to compete. You know how to go to market, you know how to sell and make good stuff and service good stuff and hire good people, but you don't know how to compete because it's not part of the DNA of the business. It's, we're not just here to sell stuff. We're here to outsell the other people. If customers don't prefer us over somebody else, we're doing something wrong. We're missing something. We're being out-competed by other people who do the exact same things that we do. And if you allow that to happen, well, you're digging your own grave. But if you become cognizant of that fact, hey, you know what? Just going to market and doing good things and doing them well and efficiently, that's not what makes us competitive. We can't be known for what we do. We have to be known for who we are, and it's who we are as a business and as people that make us competitive, because that's what people remember.
Yeah, and
I'm sure that was a mouthful, but
not at all, because there's something in there straight away where something I'm hearing is that this notion of that the how to compete. It's my background is sport. I couldn't agree more, because there's the version of athletes sometimes where they're just so adamant that they want to see success, and they're so adamant that they want to win, that the way in which they then compete is a little bit out of control. It's a little bit that they've lost that composure that you need, or that strategy that we'd worked on for months, maybe in some cases, and they've thrown themselves into the fire, and they'd come out disappointed because they didn't compete the right way. And to your point, it's no different. You've got the strategy in place. Sometimes the strategy's wrong, so how can we compete better? But I'd have to assume as well, you've gone through work like this, and you're just like, well, man, you're just going to keep getting in your own way. I mean, we've created the plan, we've got the formula, and yet sometimes human behavior, sadly, just is the last thing that we needed to figure out, and that can get in the way sometimes.
Yeah, and what I discovered and we discovered at Harley-Davidson was that if we can, as a business and then ultimately as individuals, step back and look at what drives our species. Because human beings are extraordinarily easy to understand. I'm talking in mass, not understanding each of us individually, but we all have virtually identical needs. There are things that 100% of humans find attractive. There are things that 100% of humans find repellent. And if we as a business are focused on, well, what are human needs that we can meet that others aren't meeting? What are behaviors that we can exhibit and things that we can say that humans find attractive? Well, that's what we learn to tap into at Harley-Davidson, and the businesses that I work with are focusing on. And I kind of sum it up by saying, look, if all you're known for is what you do, you're not competitive. There's millions of, hey, I'm working in corporate America as an accountant, and I'm really good at what I do, but I don't understand why I don't get promoted. And it's like, that's because you're only known for what you do. You're a good accountant. Well, yeah, you better be. You're on the payroll. You're showing up. But when the higher ups are talking about you, what are they saying about who you are as a person? Because they take the what you do as a given, just like we do with a business. I'm buying a bicycle. Well, I assume that you make good bicycles. What else have you got? If I don't know anything about you, I'm not going to remember anything about you, and I'm not going to prefer you over somebody else who also makes great bicycles. So it just requires us to step back and say, all right, how do we want to be known?
How do we want to be known? That's a big question. People aren't asking that question, I don't think, every single day.
No, and what a lot of businesses sort of dictate what that's going to be. We want to be known for making a great product. We want to be known for that we take care of our customers. And I say, that's a given, right? That's just tactical stuff. At the end of the day, if you're going to outcompete somebody, they need to prefer you over somebody else. So what are the human qualities about your business that would make them prefer you? And it's the exact same thing with individual sole proprietorships. It's the same thing with, employees working in businesses that want to get promoted and want to, move ahead, and they're stymied and they wonder why they get passed over. It's because you're focusing on all the wrongs. You're just focusing on doing a really good job. Well, that's what they're taking for granted. They assume that you're doing a good job. That's what you're paid for.
Yeah, and there's an introspective piece I'm hearing. There's like this notion of how does a person just simply either stop often enough or engage with themselves enough just to say, hey, it cannot be as simple as the results that I produce. There has to be more to what I'm bringing to the table, because I think it's easier for anyone listening to kind of start there with the individual as opposed to the business. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this too, and they're obviously immediately thinking that way as you speak. But as we're having this conversation here, that's where my mind's going, is it for anybody to think, okay, right now, if I'm consistently showing up and making it about the outcome and not engaging deeply enough with myself in terms of my value, who I am, what it is that makes me unique, and something that isn't disposable, then suddenly now your value immediately goes up and you're being seen very differently, right?
Yeah. What I like to do is take everything back to a simple series of three questions that to me are the basis of everything that is important from not just a competitive standpoint, but from a life satisfaction standpoint. They're the three questions that I posted on my first day at Harley-Davidson, just posted them in my office. This is what I'm going to be focused on. This is what we as a team need to be focused on. And the three questions were, what are people saying about us? The second question is, what do we want them to say about us? And the third is, what are we doing to make sure they're saying that about us? And basically what that is look, what's our reputation here, guys? Because at the end of the day, we can't sell anything to you that you can't get from somebody else, probably for less money, right? It's a motorcycle. It's a thing, right? It's a commodity. It can't speak for itself, doesn't have a heart or a soul or a voice. How do we want people, when they're talking about us, to their friends, to their, their coworkers, their associates, what specifically do we want them to say? What do we want our reputation to be? Because if we're not focused on that, if that's not the driving force of the business, if that's not the umbrella that covers everything, if we're not managing our own reputation, somebody else will do that for us. And they ain't going to do it the way we, they're going to be all the negative voices out there. And that's what I mean when I say businesses tend to overlook that. And they say, you know what? That's our marketing department or our marketing people or our website tells our story. And I say, it can't work that way.
Right.
It absolutely can't work that way because that's tactical, it's practical. A lot of times it's physical. It's that I see what you do, and what you do is already being copied by somebody else, or you're simply copying what somebody else is doing. And if all you're known for is what you do, and all you glorify is what you do, look, here's how I do what I do. Here's what my processes are. If that's all you talk about, or you promote, then basically what you're doing is you're asking people, you're begging them to compare you to others. Mm-hmm. And man, in what universe would anyone want to be compared when you're trying to compete? I don't want to be seen as comparable to these people. I want to be seen as more like, I want to be seen as better, more memorable, more preferable.
Yeah, I love that. And again, I love as we have these conversations on the show, and here you are speaking so much to competitiveness through 15 minutes here. And now we have that sort of the thing we're trying to avoid. So we want to step into the competitiveness, but we want to avoid the comparison. Because again, like you said, I don't know anybody that when they know they're being compared to someone are happy about it. Like, I don't.
Of course.
I just don't. No one likes that feeling, you know?
But it's what people in businesses set themselves up for that. I got a gazillion examples, Steve, of talking to entrepreneurs or a startup. Tell me about Acme Enterprises. Mm-hmm. And I try to avoid saying, tell me what you do, because that forces them to describe it. They're going to tell me about the business. But people immediately lapse into a discussion of what they do. We are a software development firm that is no. Okay, I want to know who you are, right? We'll get to the what you do, or the what you do is a given. You're a ball bearing manufacturer. You don't need to tell me that you make ball bearings. I get that. I understand that. You're software developers. I understand that. I take that for granted. But the point I'm always trying to make with people is being, and I'll say it till my face turns purple, and you'll get tired of hearing it, Steve, that you can't just be known for what you do, because that immediately renders you uncompetitive. Mm-hmm. And when people say, well, wait, it's important for them to know us and remember us for what we do. And then I always say, okay, try to describe a business, any business that you're familiar with. They might have a 2-person sandwich shop, a 100,000 employee conglomerate. Describe a business without using the pronoun they, They. It's really, we all automatically do it. Hey, how was that restaurant? Oh, they do a great job. They're awesome. I hate, how's your insurance company? They suck. Mm-hmm. Not it. It's not some faceless entity. We apply human qualities to everything because we're human beings, and that's all we're capable of. Mm-hmm. So we see a business as a collection of people, right? We see you for who you are, and that's the kind of the mirror reflection of the culture of the business. Yep. If that's what we remember and that's what we talk about, well, we need that they to be spoken of very, very positively. That's what I call, a they positive. They rock. They're cool. I love these guys. These people are amazing. Love this guy if it's a single thing. So we're using human language to describe a business. When that's happening, you're already 10 steps ahead of everybody behind you that's only known for what they do, because they're very, very hard to describe those businesses in ways that humans can react to. There's no emotion to the language, right? There's no human life. I like that. Like, if I describe a business, they suck. You get it. And from that point, you would prefer to not do business with them, just based on my 2-word assessment on the people who work there.
Yeah.
They rock. Oh God, I love these guys. Well, gee, what more do you need?
Right.
I want to do business with them too.
And that's a really powerful insight. It's just the notion of when a company gets it, or when an individual gets it, there's a simplicity to the way in which you can then evaluate them. Mm-hmm. Like to your point, it's like they rock, they suck, or whatever it may be. All those sort of examples and the opposites. But that's where my mind immediately goes to. It's the same with us as people. It's just, typically you get a good idea from the way someone starts talking about someone that's been brought up, in terms of the emotional connection that they feel towards that person, positive or negative. And you're exactly right. Like that ability for us as, as consumers, we really do look at a business and say, once we see it through a certain light, we create those emotional connections to it, and we actually start referencing it as a body, as a being. It's incredible when you think about it, and it makes you appreciate just the amount of work that's going in behind the scenes to get it to that point in the marketplace, which obviously you can speak to in abundance with the work that you did there at Harley-Davidson.
Look how many companies, Steve, will spend millions, billions of dollars to describe what they do. Mm-hmm. And you just stand back and look at it and say, okay, I understand that. Do you have no competitor? There's nobody else on the planet who does what you do. There's nobody else who sells copy machines. There's no, unless you have a cure for infectious diseases, there are other people doing what you're doing and probably selling it for less money. Mm-hmm. So now what do you got? Right? You got a price discount. You got to do anything to win business over and to get people to prefer you. And that's extraordinarily hard to do with products and services alone. I say, if a business isn't aligned on, what do we want people saying about us? When they're referring us to somebody else, what's the language we want them using? And it's that they language, is the personal pronouns that say you know the business from a human standpoint, not from a deliverable standpoint.
I love that. And immediately it's getting people thinking as we're listening here that what can I be doing about me to begin with? Yeah. Like what can how do I get started with this? And those three questions of the, what are people saying? What do I want them to say? And then how can I pretty much get them to say it? Those three questions. If you're an individual listening to this right now and you say, okay, Ken, I hear the questions. Yeah. I understand the assignment, I think. How am I really acquiring that information? Because is that individual capable of doing that effectively, I guess, is my question that I'm asking.
Yeah. Let me take a step backwards first before we go forward. And what is something I if I'm working with two people or if I'm speaking to 2,000, say, and I always show a picture of two people sitting out in front of a coffee shop. An extraordinarily important conversation is taking place right now. The biggest conversation, the most important conversation is taking place in the history of your business or your life or your career. And you're not there to have any influence on it. So the person on the left is, a customer or a client or somebody that you would say that you have a relationship with. And the other person they're sitting with is somebody you've been trying for years to get a meeting with. This could be the biggest piece of business you've ever had, that your business has ever had. This could be the defining thing for you. And the person who doesn't know you is expressing a problem that, she's having with her business. And the client or the person that you do know is about to say something about you. Oh, geez, well, I work with X. What would you want that person to say specifically about your business? And if you ask that question to business, that we're, focused on quality and excellence, and then I, throw up on my shoes and say, no, we have to do better than that because that's not how humans talk. Is what specifically would you want this person saying about you? I didn't say, what do you want them saying about your business? What do you want them saying about you? And I'm going to tell you that you haven't thought about this. Most people do not. Most people that, work for a living don't think about, what does the CEO, what does my boss say about me when they're talking about me to the higher ups when it's time for raises or promotions or, God forbid, layoffs. If I'm not thinking about all the time, if the driving force of my existence as a professional person isn't managing my reputation and having influence on that, what am I doing? And what I always suggest people do, I don't know if you can even see this, but I'll show it. I have R&R in front of my phone.
Yeah.
I used to have got it here on my laptop. I had it on my typewriter, back when we used those. And that the R&R stands for remember and repeat. And remember and repeat to me are the two most important words in competition. Is your phone's ringing. It's kind of a metaphor for life. If somebody important to you is holding on line one. And what do we tend to do as business people? It's a customer or a prospect goes, I need to answer this person's questions, right? Give them what they came for right away and as quickly as possible because people like speed. Well, that's complete. I was going to say bullshit, but I'll say BS instead.
You can say it. You can say
it's just not how the world works. And they say, look, you're about to talk to somebody who could have tremendous impact on your life. What do you want that person to remember and repeat about? Repeat as in tell somebody else, or repeat as in come back for more. We have to get past this mindset that says, I'm here to serve people, and get them what they need. No, that's you'll never get past second base in that world. I'm not here to serve. I'm here to be a source of delight for this person. And Steve, I don't mean delight as in I need to be so jolly and so amped up, and I need to be doing such extraordinary gestures. And here's a steak dinner, and here's ringside seats for the Lakers game or whatever. It's right. Humans notice immediately when we're made to feel important. I'm the important person in this conversation here. And if somebody is asking me questions about me that aren't related to, job or, whatever it is, my reason for calling today, if somebody shows an interest in me immediately, I notice that. It gives me just a tiny little flash of delight, a tiny bit of dopamine, or at least in my brain, because it happens to all of us when people are paying attention to us in ways that we didn't expect, because we're not used to getting that in the business world. Somebody's glorifying me instead of glorifying what they do. And when that happens, I come back for more of that, because the human species is a joy-seeking species. We will actively seek out any source of delight until it fails to delight us. And what I just did is define what loyalty is. We seek out what pleased us until it fails to please us.
Yeah. And that's, immediately my mind goes to a Harley, because I don't even need to go to go anywhere to buy one or be spoken to. But if one drives by me today, I will remember that experience for the rest of the day.
Isn't that
I
great?
will probably mention it to somebody. And Ken, I'm not a bike enthusiast at all. Yep. But I will. I will remember the sound. I will remember the experience. I will recall it in a way later on and repeat it to somebody else.
And what's so magical about that, Steve, is that metaphorically is what helped me and others understand that we were trying to sell the wrong stuff at Harley. We were promoting ourselves the wrong way. We weren't competing properly. And I'll give you a perfect example here. Is Steve, and you just alluded to it, that if you're sitting out in front of a coffee shop and Harley pulls up to the red light or a stop sign, without even turning your head that Harley's pulled up, and all Harley owners at red lights or stop signs, we rev our motors. It's the dumbest thing that people can do. It's just wasting gas. Rev your engine to not move. Right. And I used to think that was just, in the bike community, kind of a cultural thing. This is what we do. Then just a light bulb moment. This is, watch people as they're doing this. You rev your engine, and what you're saying is, Steve, look at me.
Yeah.
If you don't look, we're going to crack it open louder. We're going to make you look. Eventually you look, even if it's just for a split second, out the corner of your eye. But when our eyes meet for that tiny little second in time, a little dopamine releases in our brain. Somebody just noticed me. Mm-hmm. Somebody reacted to me. I like the way that makes me feel. They don't notice me when I'm walking up and down the street, and nobody pays attention to me at work or at the supermarket or whatever. I'm just another invisible person. But right now, somebody's looking at me. I like the way that feels. R&R, what do we do to any source of delight in our life? We keep doing it until it fails to delight us, which is why we keep doing that. And that's when I made kind of the headline of all this as a business. We were focused on the wrong thing. You know, we thought we were here to serve people. And I said, no, if we are a source of delight for people, they come back for more. They tell others about us. That drives demand our way through preference. So instead of focusing on selling stuff, making stuff, let's focus first, the umbrella above everything, on being a source of delight for people so that they recognize and value the people behind the product. It's not the motorcycle that Harley fans are loyal to. It's the people behind it. It's the they. They're cool. They do such a great job. They're so awesome. They take, they do concerts and events, and they. Wow. That's why Harley charges more and gets more. Has better margins than the competition, even though the products all do the exact same thing.
Man, it's fascinating hearing you sort of speak through this, because just in your experience, when you think about some of the companies now that you've worked with and you've gone and consulted with since your time with Harley, how easily are you able to help these folks understand and realize the work that comes in with this? Because that's all I'm hearing. Like the realist in me, the work I've done with athletes, the work I do with businesses now as an executive coach, like I'm listening to you talk, and it's one of these things. It's just like simple to say, very difficult to execute on, And so I'm just curious, like when you think about some of those initial interactions that you're having with these businesses, what are some of those sort of issues that you're having to obviously work through?
It actually is easier to act on once you determine that this is what we're going to do. But I'll take a step back there, because if you're talking to owners or executive leaders of businesses about this, and this is pretty much 100% of the time, Steve, there's always a little initial resistance to, what you're talking about is overly simple, or it's soft. It's from the side of our brains that we don't operate in. And look, we're 100% focused here on being more efficient, driving growth through efficiency, doing more with less and all that. And I go, that's really great, but there's not a single human being outside your company that gives a rat's ass about anything that you're doing internally. Period. That's your process. Big deal. What else have you got? Right? So there's the product, and you made it faster, cheaper. Good for you. How does that benefit me? That's what you want me to remember, that you're efficient, right? That just gets you in the game. And then they'll say, so wait, so you're telling me that we shouldn't be talking about the quality of our products and our commitment to all that? And I say, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And so you're saying that's not important? I say, oh no, that's extraordinarily important, that what you do is good. But that could be the second subject that you talk about. That could be the third. But when you're leading with that, you're telling people they already expect it, right? No potential customer is talking to you if they think what you're selling is crap to begin with. So let's get over that. But stop this belief that we have to be known for what we do and glorify what we do, because that renders you a commodity. Because you're always you're just setting yourself up for comparison. And when you get compared against somebody else is doing it for less money, you lose. Why did we lose? Because they charged us. No, because they had no reason to prefer you over somebody else. And right, if we prefer somebody, that they're willing to pay more. And then I will always ask, especially if there's like a group of people. I'll take about a single person. We'll start with an entrepreneur. And I'll say, I'll go back to that example in front of the cafe. One of your customers is talking to somebody who'd be the biggest customer you ever had. What would you want that person to say? 100% of the time, Steve, the person will put their arms behind their head and kind of stare back at this head and say, well, I guess. And I go, stop. You already lost.
Right.
You guess? You guess. Like, dude, you better start thinking about this, because this is real world stuff here. This needs to become part of business process. What exactly do you want this person to say? Because there are things that we can do as people and as businesses that are going to have strong influence on the language and the energy and enthusiasm people have when they talk about us. There's no way it will happen by accident. And the second part of that, Steve, is if I'm doing this in a business setting and there's a bunch of people in the room, I'll say, pull out, the 10 people in the room, I'll pass out 10 pieces of paper and a pen. And I'll say, just go to question number 2. What specifically would you want somebody to be saying about the business right now? How do you want people to describe the business? And I say, you got 40 seconds. I don't want you thinking about it. I want you just reacting to it. And I'll take 10 pieces of paper and I'll read the answers out after they turn them in. And I say, you see the problem here is every one of these has a different answer on it. There's zero consistency. This is your business, for God's sake. Yep. You're great at what you do, but we don't even have agreement among the leaders of the business for why people should prefer us or what we would want our reputation to be, how we wish to be talked about in the market. How can any of your employees, any of your salespeople, any of your people in marketing and distribution, how can anybody know how to describe this business and why customers should prefer us if the people running the business don't have agreement on it, if there's not consistency on it? And it's because, we don't think about that. Yep. Well, we market and promote and have a website. Great. Welcome to planet Earth where everybody has that. Mm-hmm. What else you got?
What else do you got? And that's like, it's funny that there's some alignment in our worlds when I think about some of the strategic sessions I do when I first engage with a client, and I ask questions in rooms of executives just like this, like, hey, let's all define success, or let's define what optimal looks like, and we have 5 different answers, and it's like, we got some work to do before we actually start the work, right? So it's just like that little things like that of just, if we have 5 leaders that are all walking 5 different paths on behalf of one company, there's no world where that company's creating loyalty. They're just not, because the 5 most influential people are singing a different song and branding a different brand, right?
Well, look at let's look at college football for a minute. If you're a college football coach, tomorrow's game day. Pretty safe to assume that you've been spending the last few weeks scouting out the team that you're playing against. You're looking for what they do well. You're looking for what they do predictably, looking for patterns, all of these things. And they say, well, as business people, why don't we do that? See, if you looked at the websites, say, or the sell sheets or promo sheets or whatever people in your industry use of your 5 biggest competitors, your 10 biggest competitors, first of all, you'd see patterns immediately. Mm-hmm. Everybody's saying the same thing. We stand for quality, and our commitment to customer satisfaction is unparalleled. And, here's our rates and here's our costs. And I say, so what they're doing is telling you what not to say and what not to do. So they're talking about quality. That means from this point forward, you are intentionally not going to position yourself the way your competitors do, because you've already weakened yourself. It's a natural kind of instinctive thing, and everybody does that. Mm-hmm. So then people, what's left? We construct warehouses. How else do we say that? And I said, that's why I'm here. So go back. What do we want people saying about us? And I always give the Harley example because it's the most relevant in my life. And sitting in a room with the leaders of the business, what do we want people to say? And they immediately lapse. Superior quality products. Can't. That we provide unparalleled service. It can't do that. We have all that, and we had all that right to the point of bankruptcy. Mm-hmm. Right? We're not competitive. We have great product. Everybody knows that, but guess what? It's more expensive than the other guy's stuff. So we're losing. What we need to come up with is language, vernacular that's ours, mm-hmm. that we own, that we lead with in all of our discussions, whether it's person to person, if it's on a website, if it's at a dealership, if it's a poster on a wall, if it's an event, it's a banner, is what do we want? What's the language that we want people using when they describe us? And Steve, we literally, we came up with that vernacular in one afternoon. So we got 5 words that we're going to use that drive everything and encompass everything. And those words, we're not a motorcycle company, we're a lifestyle company. And what does that mean? And my answer is always say, don't know, don't care. It means something different to everybody that hears it, but it points at, they sell a lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Makes sense.
okay, so it immediately it's different what you notice. I defy you to get into a conversation with Harley people and not hear that word mentioned in the first one or two sentences.
Oh, yeah.
We sell freedom, right? What does that mean? It's whatever you want it to mean, man.
Right.
Whatever picture is painted in your head, that's what other guys are selling: horsepower and miles per gallon and miles per hour and torque. We're selling freedom. We're selling camaraderie, networking, friends, activities, things to do. What's the opposite of camaraderie? Individuality. We're selling that too. Everything that you can do to make a statement, to stand out, to look good, to customize your bike, customize your look, all of that. And rebellion. Not rebellion against, the man. It's rebellion against status quo, the norm of doing things the way others do them.
Yep.
And when we pepper these words in our if this is what we lead with, that's, what do we want people saying with us? That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so that immediately makes us different in a way that people remember, and is also the kind of language that prompts a story. Like, what's that about? Well, and I got a chance to answer that question. Versus quality. Well, gee, what's quality mean? Nobody's ever going to ask you that.
Right. And no one's, to your point, no one's trying to feel that either, are they? They don't want to feel quality. They don't. It goes without saying. If I'm coming to buy a product, it better have quality.
I know it's going to be good,
right?
And it's going to be one of the thousands of other products that I bought this year.
But those five things that you speak to there, it's like you can feel those, you can experience those, you can possess those in a way that are true to you, as you were alluding to as well.
And when you use that enough, your competitors really can't use it because it's once you're known for something, if competitors try to ape that, it comes across as hollow. Yeah. And then to individual people, sole proprietors or just people who work for a living and want to get ahead of you, every morning when you're having a cup of coffee, just spend a few minutes on that list of 3 to 5 little words or short phrases that you would want, when the boss is talking about you, when the head of lending at the bank is talking about you to other, potential investors. What are the words that you want to pop into that person's mind immediately that define who you are? Mm-hmm. And, great worker, great product, smart, brilliant, all that doesn't cut it. Let's come up with more human words, words like, passion that go a really long way. Software is cool. He's so cool. Well, if you want to be known as cool, you got to be cool.
Right.
And you got to make sure people know that and say, look, man, I just want you to think of me as the cool guy here that's always going to take care of you. Cool. I'm the coolest. Pal, fine. Take it. Own it. Come up with, I'm a badass. Go be a badass.
Right.
And use it over and over and over again in your conversations, and other people begin to repeat it. That's basically what reputation management is coming up with how you want to be known and working to make sure that that's what people remember and say.
I love it. And what I've really enjoyed about our conversation, man, it's like we've navigated this idea of competitiveness and competition, however you want to put it. And at first, while you framed it for us and you helped us with that, you've also introduced this notion of the opposite, or the thing we're trying to avoid, by stepping into it. But you've also been able to just allow us to really truly understand some of the formulaic pieces too, how we can actually implement it and work through it as well. But there's one thing, like, it's very process and behavioral in terms of that regards, but there's this one thing that I wanted to mention in your book. So part of your book is the Unconventional Road to Dominance.
Yeah.
So that is, dominance for me sounds now like the destination. So like we've talked a lot about the inner works and what we're trying to achieve and how we behave and all this kind of thing. And then there's this word dominance. And I want to ask you, just from someone who's been a part of an organization that's achieved that, when a word like dominance is put out there, I can imagine most people go, whoa, like that's aggressive. But even just how you've so eloquently walked us through this notion of competitiveness, again, could be an aggressive word, but you found a way to actually explain it in a way where I'm not hearing that. So talk to me about how maybe something like dominance can become something that folks may not necessarily resist, and they may actually consider it moving forwards.
I love the word dominance because remember when I said that the people know how to go to market and they know how to do what they do, but they don't know how to compete. And when I trying to have competition discussions with people, some that's what they wad up on. We're already competing, and I said, then why are you not dominant? Look, what you don't want to just be in the game, right? You want to win the game. You want them chasing you, not the other way around. And that to me is what dominance is. Is we didn't come here to work today, or we didn't start this business and dump all this money into being an also ran. Right? We did it because we want to, crush, kill, destroy the competition out there. Why shouldn't we? Right? That's why we're here. We want to be seen and known as, awesome and being the best. That's what we need. That's what competition is. We're competing to win. We're competing to be dominant because who doesn't want to be the dominant player, the most preferred, the most successful player in their space? And competition, dominance, those aren't dirty words. Those should be guiding words.
Yeah, and that's I'm so glad that you put it that way because you have a warm audience on this show when you speak to this kind of language. People aren't really listening to this show that are just like, take it or leave it. No, that's not really.
I love finishing in fourth place. So,
right.
Nobody ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So people that listen to this are like, all right, I appreciate the way in which you are illustrating dominance is this thing. It's like it doesn't have to be get out of my way. I'm going to be, an asshole or something like that.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
You're speaking. You're actually speaking to listen, because as you were talking and walking through the last few minutes of competitiveness, and I'm hearing you describe it, and it's without a doubt one of the best ways I've ever heard it described, and it's also one of the best ways that I will from now on try to help people better understand what I mean by my own competitiveness too, because a lot of it aligns with who I am at my core. And to your point, I want to be dominant in this coaching space. I'm moving in that direction purposely, intentionally, but I'm not doing it at the expense of not being a great dad or being a great husband or being a great friend or just being a great person. Like, I can actually want that, pursue that, and it doesn't have to be done with a specific type of behavior or personality that can be associated with this word dominance.
It's not about aggression,
right.
so to speak. If we're not number one, we kill people till we are
right.
Number one. Not the right way to look at it, but you can spin that another way. And one of the things I talk about a lot are what I call weapons of mass attraction. It's these behaviors that we all find attractive, that we all react to. And I love asking people, what's the most magnetically attractive human trait? Magnetically attractive in the dictionary sense, a force that pulls a body forward. And Steve, people always say, oh, well, that's a smile and looking friendly. And I see, they smiled at Sears. They smiled at Montgomery Ward's. They smiled at Block. All these businesses that are gone. No, the most magnetically attractive human trait is visible with a capital V, passion with a capital P, in the presence of, in the shared space of somebody who's clearly digging what he or she are doing at that moment. 100% of the human race leans toward that person. We'll tilt our head. We're now completely transfixed and paying attention to this because we're joy-seeking species. This guy clearly digging what they're doing. Give me some of that. That kind of feels good to be around that.
Yep.
And the practical side of that is that's you walking into a meeting. That's you meeting the guys from the bank for the first time. It's you meeting that customer for the first time. As people judge you in 1/100th of a second, whether they willingly want to spend time with you, and that's 100% based on that first look. So the guy who's staring at his shoes or shuffling in, carrying his briefcase, that's, pow, I just read you. And it may not be an accurate read, but it's the read you gave me. So I automatically think that you're cold or predictable or dull or whatever. I'm making all these judgments. Nobody ever harshly judges the super passionate, super enthusiastic person because we all aspire to that. We find that, I mean, you can go overboard and look like a moron. That's not what I'm, but you know genuine passion and enthusiasm when you see it. And the beautiful thing about it is the dividend it pays is when you're around somebody like that and the shared presence, within 1/100th of a second, you start to mimic them. Hey, this guy's having a great, well, hey, guess what? So am I.
Yeah.
You don't think about it. You just do it. Feels good to be around these people, this guy, like this. What now? All of our reactions are human, and they're all steeped in our emotion right now. I like this, like the way it feels. Versus go into a business somewhere and you get the, hey, can I help you? You can hear that anywhere. If this guy doesn't like his job, she's not enjoying herself, whatever that is. Like you just no, thank you, and you turn and walk away from people like that. So, how do you get people to come towards you? Is you show interest in them immediately, look visibly passionate, ask them a question that they can't say no to. My favorite is, hey, you want to see something cool? The number of people that say no to that is exactly 0. No, man, I don't have any time to see. So yeah, sure. What do you got? Let me see. So now let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? The guy tells you what he's doing. Then you react. Oh, that's so cool, man. I wish I could do that. How do you do that? Pal, this has nothing to do with what's being sold here. Somebody's showing an interest in me. I like that. And I'm talking about my favorite subject in the world, me. Don't get to do that enough.
Right.
Oh, he's going to leave that business, leave that store, leave that meeting, leave that trade show booth, whatever it is. That's now burned into the psyche. These guys get it, right? Even if it was just one person. Like them. They're a great business. They're cool.
And it's no accident that the podcasting world has become what it's become, because that's pretty much filled with opportunities for people to come on and speak about themselves. And it's just, and that's, I joke ironically about that, but my point with that, Ken, is like, it still doesn't mean it's done well in a lot of cases. And
sure.
when we create a space like this, and we have the data and the support and the audience now that shows that we do it well here. Your point is that people enjoy coming in and sitting and speaking to themselves. And if you can help somebody do that, and there's a word that you use in there that I think is so important, is genuinely. Like, again, the vision and the passion. You said when it's not done genuinely, it's fake, it's a performance, it goes overboard, and you see right through it. We all see right through it. And it is one of those things that I am so fortunate to do, is I've created a world in my life where I get to sit at the heart of things that I have vision towards and that I'm passionate about, and I don't have to force or pretend any of it. It's all real, and it gets picked up and received that way pretty much everywhere I go.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
I was of all places, Lithuania. I'm in a meeting in Lithuania, and there was I forget what his title is, but he was like a head of humanistic studies or something at Cambridge in England. Wow, this guy's a pretty big deal. And we were just have a very casual conversation about, attractive behaviors that people exhibit, and, the awkward exchanges that happen all the time at trade shows when you're meeting business people for the first time. And he said, Ken, the greatest single piece of advice I could give anybody, if you're at a cocktail party, you're at a business meetings, is don't be interesting, be interested. Because when you're being interesting, you're just talking about yourself, which is already counter-human to the other person. Hey, I'm the one who should be getting glorified here. How do we turn this back to me? So just by expressing interest in someone, asking them questions, and then reacting to what they're saying, that is so cool. I didn't know that about you. Tell me more. I'm fascinated. That person absolutely likes you now. It took 0 effort on your part. That person is going to remember you, and at the end of the day, week, month, year, somewhere in the future, that person needs whatever it is you have, they remember. And they come, and it was just based on those simple little drivers of human behavior.
Yeah, and that's what's been so prevalent throughout this whole conversation, is that this is all human behavior, but human behavior that you have to choose. To your point earlier, when you are working with those people, they've determined that this is important. They've determined this is something that they need to figure out, And without that desire to determine that, so much of what we're talking about, sadly, is irrelevant. Like if you're going to be resistant to it, it's just not going to work. If you can get to that point of determining this is a necessity and this is why, and suddenly all of this becomes, to your point earlier, pretty simple work, right?
It way more simple than it might sound, and the simplicity of it to me is kind of the joy of it all, because it doesn't require a lot of heavy bending, a lot of heavy lifting. It just requires us to think about this and make it part of our daily life and daily process. And it truly is stuff that anybody can do. I talk to college kids, new employees all the time at businesses, and what are they all? I can't see why I wouldn't be getting a promotion every 6 months, a raise every 3 months, and because they don't know what they don't know, and they don't realize that they're competing, and all these things. So if you get it into your mindset early enough in your life, it's a habit.
That's right.
And that's what you think of first. Have my employee review today or whatever. What do I want this person to remember and repeat about what I'm about to say? And if I'm thinking about that first, I can drive the conversation the way I want it driven.
Definitely. Ken, this has been nothing short of a masterclass, to be honest with you, brother, in terms of some of this stuff. I really appreciate it. And for our audience, as we start to wrap up here, if there's any way that we can learn more about you, firstly, tell us about the book. I think that's a great reference point for anybody to start. And then anything in addition to that you'd like to share with us too, we'd love to hear it.
Oh, sure. Well, the book is Make Some Noise, The Unconventional Road to Dominance, which is basically a roadmap, if you will, of how to reposition yourself, reposition your business based on those three questions. What are people saying? What do we want them to say? What are we doing to get them to say it? But then breaking it, okay, how do we do this? Mm-hmm. And then how do we ensure that our behavior as a business, that which customers or potential customers or other people important to our business, that which they see us doing, how does that mesh with the language that we're using? Because they have to be the same. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to say we're the most passionate people or the coolest or the fastest or the smartest, how do we back that up? What behavior do we have to exhibit to make that real? How do we then drive that into our culture? That's what the business is, that's what the book's about, with tons of, I use motorcycle stories for just about everything because they tend to be visual and memorable. Yeah. I have a podcast called Tailgating with Geniuses. Sit down and talk with extraordinarily smart and really, really successful people who have stories to tell that aren't about how they built their business or how they invented what it is. It's just drilling down into the human side of business that I find fascinating. Anybody who wants to can, if you've got a question, can reach me at ken@kenspeaks.com. There's not a question you can ask me that I don't answer. I love that. Reach me through my website, kenspeaks.com. I'm on LinkedIn, like everybody else on the planet.
That's right.
I'm out there, man. I really do like helping people to better understand how to use some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, that comes through in abundance, man. And like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and to have this opportunity just to simply learn selfishly from you. If nobody else listened to this, I've benefited, but I happen to know a lot more people will. So with that being said, brother, again, thank you just for the generosity of insights, the time, and just best of luck with everything moving forwards.
Great pleasure spending some time with you, Steve. You ask the kind of questions that I enjoy.
That's good.
Because never once did you say, how did you take a struggling business and make it start? You didn't get into like simple tactics that most people want to do. And I said, I could tell you how we did it, and it would only be of benefit to you if you're also a company that makes heavyweight motorcycles.
That's right.
Otherwise, what are you going to take from it? Let's talk about how it really works.
That's right. That's
way
right.
better.
I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Ken, thanks again.
Thank you, Steve.
And my thanks again to Ken for joining us on the episode today. Short and sweet, just some insights here about the conversation. The one thing that I have to just re-emphasize is what I mentioned there right at the very end too, is the determining whether or not this is for you. So much of what Ken laid out is so potentially impactful. Forget your business, just for you as a human being. You'll get to your business once you figure out the person, the individual that's running the business. So just to really challenge you on this notion of determining this is what you want to do. When it comes to some of this work around what are people saying about me, asking those difficult questions, wanting to be curious enough to get the answers, acquire that information so that you can then better serve yourself, show up as a better version of yourself, be interested in people as opposed to trying to be the interesting one, as Ken alluded to as well. So the idea that being competitive is something that you don't have to shy away from, that you can actually embrace, is so potentially powerful for you, firstly, as a person. And then if you do run a business, if you are part of a business, the impact that can then obviously have on that is great. But that competitive part of this, if you're listening to everything that we talked about and you said, sorry, that's not for me, you cannot then choose parts of what Ken presented to us and just maybe use parts of it. That's not how this works. Determine first, get clear on whether competitiveness is something that you want in your world. Are you trying to stick your head out and create opportunities for yourself that you know will better serve you and allow you to perform at higher levels? If the answer to that is unequivocal yes, then start doing some of this work. If it's not a yes, start doing some work around that first. Asking why. Why are you not as drawn into the idea of what we've been able to lay out for you in the past hour? So there's just some food for thought. I'm not necessarily giving you direction more than I am just giving you, listen, pick a lane. It's up to you. Whichever lane you want, go ahead and pick it. But once you've picked it, understand that one comes with a very clear roadmap in terms of that of how to become competitive and eventually chase dominance. And then the other one probably comes with even more questions, which again is fine. I'm not trying to disrespect that. What I'm trying to encourage you to do is do some work around why that is. Why is it that for whatever reason, the competitive path doesn't seem quite as appealing? So those are my insights, and I'm so glad that Ken was able to give us such generosity in his to allow us to have what is without a doubt a true, as I mentioned it to him, a true masterclass just in terms of what it means to truly push yourself and get out of your business and out of yourself what it is you're trying to potentially get out of it. As always, folks, make sure we're subscribing, make sure we're sharing the show with anyone and everyone in your world that you know can be benefited by the content that we discussed today, which is just about everybody. Please be sure to tag us on social medias if you ever feel the need to share publicly what it is we're doing and the impact that the show's having. And finally, as always, best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on in your world. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.